Let's welcome to the program Stephen Rousseau. Hello, Stephen. How's everything?
Hey, how you doing, Ed? Thank you for having me, man. I'm definitely appreciative of this, and really excited to chop it up with you.
No problem, my man. And thank you once again for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this. I really appreciate that. So before we get into yoga and the holistic nutrition and your business, let's start from the very beginning. Your upbringing. Of course, you had a unique upbringing. You're the son of Haitian immigrants. You grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and Brooklyn, of course, is home to the Brooklyn Nets and, of course, Biggie Smalls and Jay-Z and Little Kim. But what was your Brooklyn like growing up?
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn, late '80s, all throughout the '90s. So, Brooklyn, as we know today, Brooklyn has like this cool, swanky, hipster friendly, all, nice bars, nice restaurants and all that. We know it as a place that is happening, but, back when I was growing up, especially in the neighborhood of Brooklyn that I grew up in, which was Flatbush, it was a neighborhood that was diverse in terms of that they had the working family there, and it was just blue collar workers, but then there was also the gang violence that was happening too. There was a lot of gang violence. There was just a lot of like just drug dealing and a lot of craziness happening around that time in Brooklyn. But it was interesting to see that, but then you had the working family, you had again the blue collar workers as well as a lot of doctors, lawyers in the neighborhood. And, my mother wanted to keep me out of the environment of all the trouble in terms of the gang violence, and so she made sure I stayed active. She made sure that I always was doing extracurricular activities like basketball, going to like summer camps that kept me active, and most importantly, she put me in martial arts, which was something that karate to be exact, was a style that I practiced from the age of 7 all the way up to about 18. And that kept me definitely active, but that also kept me very centered mentally and kept me very centered just in my whole being. So growing up in that environment that had such a mixture of everything, I'm very grateful that keeping my body active, keeping my mind active, helped me stay out of that and stay focused on things. But outside of all that, Brooklyn was always a beautiful and colorful place to be in. And I'm definitely very grateful for my upbringing in Brooklyn at the time when it was so beautiful, unique, and very just real. Yeah.
Yeah, rightfully so. And as they say, upbringings are always the stepping stones for what you become in life. Whether you take the good and the bad or whatever it is, and it's definitely you definitely made the most of your upbringing growing up in Brooklyn, and of course your parents, particularly your mother, getting you involved in something which you mentioned, which is karate, which will segue into the next topic, your introduction to sports and fitness. You mentioned karate. What form of martial arts did you practice from the ages of between 8 and 18?
Karate or karate, which is a style of martial arts. And then I did that from about 7 to 18. The style of karate came from the Okinawa lineage, and the style was not so much based on, how hard you punch and how good is your kicks and all that. It was very much based in, all that came with it, but of course, a lot of it focused on the mindset of the practitioner, the mindset of the martial artist, because, we had to train our minds first before we focus on training our bodies. We had to make sure the mind was well trained. And for that to be instilled in me at a very young age, it stayed with me throughout my life. It stayed with me when there was trouble coming my way. The first thing we were taught is to make sure that we try to like work things out before we use our hands, before we use our legs, before we use our bodies. Use your mind, communicate, talk, and that definitely helped out a lot, and had a great effect on me, especially going into becoming a yoga instructor, becoming a personal trainer, offering meditation. And personal training is understanding the mind and how important it is, before connecting to the body and training that part of yourself. So, yeah.
Let's stay with your karate experience during the time that you really you practice in the martial arts. I'm looking at your bio here. It says that you became a first degree black belt. Now, can you explain to our listeners just in detail what are the differences between first degree black belt or second degree or third degree and so on and so forth?
Yeah, a first degree black belt is like I guess you could say in terms of levels or expertise, and a first degree black belt is like right at the beginning stage of when you begin your as a black belt, martial arts, because prior to that, all the belts is what leads you to the black belt, and then from the black belt, that's when you start to master. That's when you get into like mastery mode of your practice. That's when now your practice becomes more of a lifestyle, and some people becomes their business, their job, their full-time job. So in karate, the highest degree of black belt is 10th degree black belt, and most 10th degree black belts are around the age of 70 or 80 years old. So this to tell you that this thing now, it becomes very much a part of your life when you get to that belt, to that status, But in karate, we understand that the belts is a symbolism. It's not, doesn't define you. It's more so of how you think, how you eat, just how you live your life is what defines your practice as a martial artist. So being a first degree black belt gave me that firsthand insight of what it means to live the life as a martial artist, live the life as a righteous person. And then, of course, when you go up to second and third degree, your practice is more enhanced, you get more serious, you get more embedded in the practice. But the reason why I stopped at first degree was because, my calling started to go elsewhere. I started to go into more of other sports, of football and a little bit of track and field, and of course from there transitioning into personal training, yoga, meditation. But the martial arts, that never left me. That always stayed with me, especially being a practitioner for so long. That just stayed with me, and I carried that throughout all sports and all professions that I've been doing and that I'm still doing.
Okay, so you mentioned about other sports that you participated in. You played football, and you also participated in track and field. And I'm seeing you had a storied career throughout your high school years in football and track and field. And let's talk now about personal training. What was the defining moment when, after your high school athletic career was over with, what was the defining moment where you said, you know what, this was good in high school, but I need to leave this behind and transition into the next phase of your life and in your career, such as being a personal trainer?
Well, I remember growing up, I used to watch Real Sports by Bryant Gumbel on HBO, and which is unusual for like a kid to watch that, because I feel like that was such an adult show, especially like people who were like serious sports fans. And I used to watch it all the time because I wanted to know behind the scenes stuff, of all my favorite athletes in every sport, right? And I remember one episode he was talking about the trainers who keep these athletes in shape, the trainers who help them recover from injuries. And I was so intrigued by that. I was so amazed by that, and never really realized, like, oh wait, these guys, they have somebody looking out for them. Just like how in martial arts you have a sensei or a teacher helping you build your practice up. It's the same thing with these athletes. They have a trainer and they have someone out here who's helping them become better. And as I was coming to the end of my high school sports, my career in, or I guess you say my athlete in high school, I was realizing, like, okay, I'm not gonna make it into the NFL, but if I am, I want to train the athletes. I want to build the athletes, and that's what motivated me to get into personal training. And this came to me, I would say, probably my junior year of high school, where I said, the career that I want to go and the subject I want to study more, I want to understand the human body. I want to understand the mechanics of the human body. So from there, my interest in personal training and physical therapy and athletic training, that started to enhance more and more. And once I graduated high school, I immediately started to work as a young what they call a floor trainer, because I was too young to get certified. I wasn't 18 yet. And once I got certified, I became a personal trainer. But as a floor trainer, I was able to see the other trainers work with their clients and just learn from them. And once I was old enough to get certified, I started working with, other young guys. And then eventually, as I gained more experience, I started working with an older crowd than the elderly. Then I started working with other special population. But this is right out of high school. And in college, I was still chasing that dream of wanting to be a professional athlete. But as I started to gain more experience and educate myself within personal training, I started to really see that personal training was the career route that I was going to go, and as time went on and forward. So that was the transition and the realization that I wanted to get into personal training. That all started back in high school in my junior year, and just wanted to know more. And from watching Brian Gumbel on HBO and watching that, it was just all this made me curious and intrigued to work with athletes and curious about the human body and how you build it, how you rebuild it. So definitely thankful for my young, curious mind back then, because it's helped me get to where I am now.
Indeed, it did help you out tremendously, because I'm looking at, again, reading your bio right here, that you became certified, as you mentioned earlier. You became certified through the International Sports Science Association, and then you later earned additional certifications through the NASM, which is the National Association of Sports Medicine. So can you tell our audience, what's the, if you can elaborate, just what's the process, how do you go through the process of becoming certified through these organizations?
You can either go to an actual institution and you can do your certification in a certain period of time, or you can do your self-paced studies. I did self-paced because I was in school as well as working part-time in the gym. So it's I didn't really have time to be able to go to an actual institution and study. So back then, when I got certified back in 2006, is when I got certified as a trainer. I remember you have to order the all the information and stuff online. And this is when when ordering stuff online first started to happen. So you order stuff online, and they'll send you your textbooks and your DVDs, or in your CD-ROMs. And, I remember just studying like the videos as well as learning about anatomy physiology. And it also helped that in school I was studying to be a physical therapist assistant, and then later on later on physical education. So I already had the anatomy physiology book from classes in college, and then now I have this anatomy physiology book from my certification. So I was able to have double the material to just build on that. And to get certified, you gotta research and know which certification course works for you. ISSA at the time was very much based on weightlifting, calisthenics, all about the body in terms of building it, getting it stronger. Whereas an NESM at the time was very focused on building flexibility and helping with posture, and also working with folks who have injuries and special populations. So that's why a lot of trainers might have like multiple certifications, because every certification has a different focus. And some too have like a very broad focus on things. So that's kind of like the basic of how you get certified today. In terms of institution, now some people, they don't even need to get certification if they have a college degree in exercise physiology. That right there already qualifies them as getting into personal training. But then some places still required for you to have that certification so you can work in these different like gyms, different boutique personal training studios and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of like the basic of how you get into like personal training.
Okay, that's awesome to hear. I never knew. I mean, I always knew it was a process, but I didn't know the full nuances of it until you explained it thoroughly. Let's move on now to you acquired another certificate, and that is being a certified TRX trainer. What is TRX all about?
Oh, the TRX is a great device that you could pretty much use anywhere. The TRX is I guess to explain it, it's a device that's made from like rock climbing material, and the company, the founder of the company, who's a former, I believe, Marine, he, during his, his time in Iraq, of course there was no gym, no place he could work out. So the material that he had for like rock climbing, the material that they use, I think for when they had to strap and pull like heavy machinery, he saw that, oh wait, I could use this to do like different exercise, like a push-up or a row exercise, all using my body weight. So the TRX, then later on he invented the TRX device, which you can either strap to a door or you could wrap it around a pole. And it's a great device to do like various body weight exercise. And it helps with focusing on alignment as well as strengthening the body and being aware of gaining more awareness of your body through that. So the TRX is a great device. I believe the acronym means Total Resistance Exercise. And it's, of course, the product has like, grown, and the community of TRX trainers have grown tremendously over the years. Almost every elite athlete uses the TRX, and it's a great and it's something that everybody can use. So not just professional athletes, but also elderly, folks with injuries. I mean, I've seen videos of athletes improve their game from using the TRX to elderlies improve their posture and their arthritis and osteoporosis from using it. So it's a great advice that you can pretty much take with you anywhere, and you can use it pretty much anywhere. So it's exercise equipment that all you use your total body weight to do it, and you could do almost almost any and almost every exercise with it.
Wow, that's awesome to hear right there. TRX is something I had never heard of until you mentioned it. So that's real cool right there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what else? What else is cool is you are not just you're a yoga instructor, but you're a certified comedic yoga instructor. Now, can you tell our audience specifically? They know about the practice of yoga, but can you explain specifically what comedic yoga is all about?
Sure. Well, first, if let's understand the word comedic, and the word comedic comes from the word kemet, which is spelled Kemet, and that comes from the kemet is the original and the indigenous name of ancient Egypt. So Kemet is what the ancient Egyptian people called that land, and Kemetic yoga is based on the ancient Egyptian lineage of yoga. So a lot of people are not aware that the ancient Egyptian people have practiced what we know as yoga today. And if we look closely at the hieroglyphs, if we read closely into some of the spiritual texts from ancient Egypt, in terms of talking about the benefit of the breath, being connected to your third eye, being connected to the energy channels in your body that we know as chakras today. This is something that has been something that they've been speaking about in ancient Egypt for thousands and thousands of years. And then even in terms of the movements, you can see people doing back bends and a downward dog-like position in ancient Egypt. So they have hieroglyphs of all these movements. And, if we understand ancient Egypt and its comparison to other ancient civilizations, ancient Egypt existed long before the civilization in India started to arise. So, not saying so much that yoga came from ancient Egypt, but it was definitely practiced there much earlier, and transition and made its way to India. I don't like to say that India stole from ancient Egypt. I don't believe so, because people migrated out of Africa, and now we're going into history now of migration of people throughout the globe, and a lot of people migrated into what we know as India and maintained that practice, that spiritual practice, as well as the physical practice. And later on, it evolved into what we know as yoga. And in the yoga today, of course, now when Westerners got introduced to it, they started to implement some of their stuff into it. So that's why now yoga is more of a athletic. It's involved a lot of athleticism in it than more so of the spiritual aspect of it. So Kemetic yoga is tying the two of the physical as well as the spiritual, and allowing us to see beyond what we know of yoga today from the mainstream perspective, and we see yoga from more so of a spiritual, meaning how it connects us in a deeper way, how it connects to our thoughts, how it connects to our emotions, and of course our body.
Let's stay with comedic yoga for a moment, Stephen. Are the chants different, or are the moves different from comedic yoga as opposed to practicing regular yoga, or is it all one and the same?
The movements and the chants are very different. The chants that we use in the comedic yoga practice is based on different ancient Egyptian words and language, because the terminologies in ancient Egypt were based on sounds. They were based on what the sounds that they heard in the environment and how it vibrates with the body, because that's what chanting is in yoga practice all across the board. It's sounds that connects to our body and vibrates with our bodies on a certain level. So when we hear the sound Ankh, right? Ankh is the name for the ancient Egyptian cross, but Ankh is a sound, and it's a vibration that was heard that was heard within ancient Egypt, and they heard this when a baby was born, right? They heard the baby when it cried, it would make an onk sound when it cries. So when they would hear that, they connected that sound to life. They connected that sound to life. So the chanting that we do in the Kemetic yoga practice, another sound we do is called shu. Shu is connected to the breath. Shu is connected to air. When you listen to air, when you listen to the wind, when it blows, it makes a shoo sound. Shoo, shoo. So it's like, that's why we use the chant shu. Another chant we use is ra. Ra is the sound of is the vibration, the sound of the sun, right? Ra, like it's very powerful. It's very, when you turn on the light bulb, or when you hear light bulb, you hear like a vibrating ra sound to it, right? So that is our, in terms of our chanting in Kemetic yoga, that's where the chanting comes from, the ancient Egyptian terminologies and sound. Now the movements we do is also based on what we've seen on the hieroglyphs. For example, our most popular, posture that we do is called the pose of Ma'at. Ma'at is a goddess who represents, an ancient Egyptian goddess who represents balance. And in the posture, she's on one knee with her arms up, shoulders height. And the arms represents the balance of energy, masculine, feminine energy, good, bad, or you could even see it as yin and yang, right? So we are in this posture with our arms up. We're making sure our arms is aligned and our spine is aligned, in alignment with each other. That's how we maintain that balance throughout our body. So the postures in Kemetic yoga and what we see in the more Indian lineage of yoga, in some ways they are the same, but they're very much different in terms of their meaning and in terms of like what is it that you're focusing on. And the chants are very different from each other as well. So there is a difference, but also similarity, because Kemetic yoga, again, is the foundational practice of a lot of the yoga practices we see today. So even with like the style, the Hatha style of yoga, which is one of the oldest styles of yoga from the Indian lineage, has very similar movements to what we see on the hieroglyphs and what we see in the Kemetic yoga practice today.
So, wow, I learned a lot. I always kind of thought I always kind of thought it was the same, but it's definitely, you really broke down the, not just the historical nature, but also just broke it down in detail. Just, you know, what's the differences between Kemetic yoga and regular yoga. I want to stay with Kemetic yoga for a moment. You wound up earning a certification in it. So, what's the process of that earning a certification in Kemetic yoga?
The process is, there's only one registered, meaning like it's registered on the Yoga Alliance, and you can be registered as a yoga teacher under 200 hours. So there's only one school that you can get certified through that helps you become registered as a teacher, and that is the Yoga Skills School of Kemetic Yoga. And that school, the founder of that school goes by the name of Yasir Ra-Hotep. And Yasir Ra-Hotep is, I would say, is one of the one of the foundational and one of the master teachers of Kemetic yoga practice today in modern times. He started practicing Kemetic yoga back in the 1970s. And he was practicing Kemetic yoga based on what he was seeing in the hieroglyphs, because he would read a lot about ancient Egypt, and then later on would travel to Egypt a lot to study more of the hieroglyphs. And throughout that, he started to create this style, this method of Kemetic yoga, which he calls the Yoga Skills Method. And from there, the movement is based on what he saw in the hieroglyphs. And the movements, the way we go about it, we call it geometric progression. And the reason why we call it that is because energy is constantly moving as we do our posture. That's why alignment is important, and the connection of the breath is important, and most importantly, awareness of ourselves is important when we do our practice. So energy, that life force energy, right? Which, or if you want to, get religious, the spirit is constantly moving, it's constantly connecting to you. So, if you want to get certified in Kemetic Yoga, you connect to the school, which is the Yoga Skills School, and you could do that through their website, as well as you could go to KemeticYoga.com and find the school there, and they do the certification all over the world. The certification is done all over the world, mostly in the States, but I got certified actually in Jamaica, in Negril, Jamaica. And it was a 10-day, very intense certification where we trained from sun up to sundown. And it was just a certification that consists of course, the physical aspect of the Kemetic Yoga, but also understanding the history, the spirituality, the importance of the breath, the importance of alignment, and everything that we do in the Kemetic Yoga practice. But then there's certifications that are a little bit longer, that are lengthy, and you can kind of go at your own pace. And those last about 3 months. And but yeah, Yasir is the main person who certifies people, which is amazing that after 40 plus years he's still certifying people today. And again, he does a certification in Jamaica, but he also does certifications in New York. He's done certification in Atlanta. He's done certification in Chicago, and he's even done certifications in Australia, as well as I believe New Zealand. He's done certifications out there, London, France, all over the world, South Africa, I think Gambia. He did a certification out there. So if you're interested, if people are interested in getting certified, they can go to KemeticYoga.com or yogaskills.com and just look up dates for certifications. And then if you're not interested in necessarily getting certified and you just want to practice, there's online courses that I offer, as well as other folks do offer, to get more connected to the practice.
Man, you're definitely dropping some gems right there about your certification, and also letting where people can go on and go online to receive the certification and take part of the workshops. Let's stay with yoga for a minute. You, I won't say you're an anomaly, but somewhat you're still kind of somewhat in a minority, just in terms of not just Caribbean American, but just people of color in general that are practicing yoga and are very involved in the practice. What do you say to not just people of color, but just minorities in general, the ones that are still a little hesitant or reluctant to practice yoga because of the misconceptions of it? What do you say to? What's your message to people that want to get more, to people of color that want to get not just involved in yoga, but more importantly, get more involved in Kemetic Yoga?
Mm-hmm. Well, and that melanated people, black and brown people, we've been practicing yoga for tens of thousands of years. So it's nothing new to us. It's nothing outside of us. The method of being connected to self, the method of finding peace in oneself is not a non-African, not a non-indigenous practice. It's very much African. It's very much indigenous. So I think that's the first thing that people have to understand, that this is not something outside of your culture, not something outside of your ancestry. And then the second thing is to not allow Western cultures and mainstream industry to intimidate you, because what we see in most studios is folks who are not melanated, who are not black or brown practicing yoga, and we get intimidated by that, but when but then if we look harder and we see, okay, there are spaces, there are teachers who look like me, who are black and brown, and they practice yoga. And then as I'm understanding the history of yoga, wait a minute, the first practitioners of yoga were black people, or were people out of Africa, the people who were indigenous to those lands. And then it's like that mindset now of like, oh, this is outside of me. That slowly starts to go away, because now you can connect more on a deeper level. And the powerful thing about Kemetic yoga is that we're practicing a style of yoga that comes from the motherland, that comes from Africa. So Kemetic yoga is a form of African-based yoga. It's an African-based yoga. Now, it happens to be the most well-documented practice of yoga in all of Africa. But I'm pretty sure if we do more research and we look deeper, we'll see that there was probably yoga practice in other parts, in other ancient civilizations throughout Africa. It's just ancient Egypt had it very well documented. So black and brown people, if they understand that, especially people of the diaspora, you got to do your research. You got to see that this is not something outside of you. This is not something new that we're doing. We've been doing this for a long time, and the fact that we gravitate to it so easily means that it's already in your DNA. It's already something within you, something that your spirit very much connects to you. And then from there, understanding Kemetic yoga, and that, okay, this is from my lineage, this is from my ancestry, so this is a practice that I can truly connect with. Not to take anything away from the Indian lineage, which is also very powerful in itself, but it's like the Kemetic yoga just has a special connection to the people of the diaspora, and I encourage them to definitely, add or, make Kemetic yoga part of their practice, as well as other yoga lineage as well, because you want to get all perspective of things. You want to have, you want to be able to practice from all angles, because, the more healing tools you get, the better. So, but it's a matter of understanding that this is not something outside of you. This is something very much a part of you, and that you shouldn't, never feel intimidated by it.
All right, well put right there. And definitely more people of color, as you said, the melanated people are getting more involved in yoga. Definitely something you need to do to challenge not only your mind, but also your body and your spirit as well. And speaking of nourishing your mind, body, and spirit, let's move on now to holistic nutrition. Now, you've been a vegan since 2009, and you made a decision to become a holistic nutritionist. Where did what was the defining moment, or what was the breaking point where you just said, you know what, I'm ready to make a change and I want to become a vegan and get involved in holistic nutrition? My first exposure to veganism, if you want to call it that, was actually when I started martial arts. My sensei was a vegan. And I remember when he would, because nutrition was also part of our martial arts practice. And I remember he would talk about like tofu and talk about what they call those rice cakes thing and rice milk. And this is like early 90s. So we didn't have like the soy protein yet. We didn't have like the fake chicken wings and cauliflower barbecue. We didn't have that yet. It was very like basic, and at the time I thought it was just so bland and all that. But that was my first exposure to like the vegan diet, and then also when I first started getting into yoga, I started to understand the Hinduism religion, and that there's parts of Hinduism where they are vegans, where they practice veganism. And then it was right around, I would say right around the time when I started learning more about Dr. Sebi and watching his lectures on YouTube. And then when he'll come to Brooklyn,
and do lectures in these small spaces. I mean, this guy is world famous, but back then he was only known throughout just the black community. So when he'll come to these small spaces, you know, he was able to go to those lectures for like, you know, for like almost for free, and you know, listen to him talking about alkaline and plant-based diet. And then I remember I read this book called African Holistic Health by a brother who passed by the name of Dr. Africa. And that book was like a one-stop shop for like holistic health, and especially holistic health for black people. And it blew my mind. And one of the things was emphasizing the importance of eating a vegan or a plant-based diet. So it was right around 2009 when I turned, I think it was 21. Yeah, I turned 21, and one of the things I wanted to change once I had turned 21 was to change my diet. And I noticed that a lot of my friends were vegans, and a lot of people that I worked with were vegans or vegetarian. And I remember my birthday meal, my birthday, like, 21st birthday meal was, I went to this vegan restaurant, which was like, at the time, the only one in Manhattan. Went there, had a vegan meal, and I was blown away how good it tasted. And it was all just vegetables and grains. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, all right, let me give this a shot. Let me try this out, see how my body feels. Once my digestive system changed, my skin started to clear out, my energy went up. I was able to keep like excessive weight off of me very easily. I started to be really like, wow. And then, then I got into like a little bit of the Rastafarian culture, and their focus too is a lot on the diet and how, you know, ingesting life helps you preserve life. Meaning, when you eat a plant and it's green and it's vibrant, you're putting in life into your body, so you're preserving your own life, right? And all these things had a great effect on me, and I started to understand more and more the importance of eating healthy and eating and being aware, being very conscious of your eating, being very conscious of your what are things that you're putting into your body. So that then eventually made me want to get more into things professionally, and that's when I decided to become a holistic nutritionist. And the difference between a nutritionist and a holistic nutritionist, most nutritionists focus on just the food itself, where a holistic nutritionist focuses on the food from a plant-based perspective, but a holistic nutritionist understands the holistic aspect of someone's diet, of someone's eating habits. So now, you know, it's not just knowing like, well, how can we change what is it that you're eating? It's more so now, how can we change, or how can we have an understanding of your emotions and your mentality that affects your eating, right? If somebody's feeling very sad and not so loved, they tend to go to processed sugar. And the sugar, because of chemicals in that, triggers other hormones in your body that makes you want to continue eating stuff. That's why, you know, so many of us, including myself, we all love chocolate, because chocolate just makes us feel warm and bubbly inside. It makes us feel like, you know, chocolate is giving us a hug, you know, so it's like, it calms you down. And when you're feeling stressed and you just want to let out aggression, what happens? You eat something crunchy and salty. So you have some chips and you just keep going. You know how they say you can't just eat one chip. You got to eat them all.
Right.
Because it's just this constant, the chewing is like it's aggression, and it's like it's letting get out that stress. So the holistic aspect of nutrition is looking at it from a holistic perspective of your mind, of your emotions, understanding your stress level, right, and all that stuff. So that, you know, what I was able to do with myself with the diet, I said, all right, I need to now, I think I'm ready to, you know, start to do this with others and help others out. And and it's more than just putting together a meal plan. It's like, well, when we put together a meal plan, but, well, how's your heart? How's your mind? Like, because that lets me know now if you're going to stay dedicated to this diet, because people easily fall off just based on their stress level alone.
Wow, that's interesting that you really broke it down, the differences between nutrition, being a nutritionist and a holistic nutritionist. It's interesting how you really broke down just the mental aspects of it, because again, food is a mechanism, and food can affect your emotions, and sometimes people don't really see the correlation between that. That's an interesting point that you brought up right there. I want to stay with holistic nutrition for a moment. When you have clients that come to your business, do you give them tips on diet plans? Do you help them? Do you preach what I should say is, do you preach to them about a vegan diet and the benefits and the importance of it, or do you kind of work with them based on individual needs?
I first, when I start to work with a new client, I feel them out first. I let them feel me out first. I'm not a preachy vegan. I'm not a preachy vegan. I'm not somebody who's going to say, you need to be a vegan. I more so say you need to implement more of a vegan diet in your diet already. So if you're somebody who has a healthy omnivore diet, I always say, okay, try like a meatless Monday, or try, no meat throughout the week, but then treat yourself to meat during the weekend, or, treat yourself to maybe a meat eating meal throughout the day. So it's more so of if the client is open to that, or, if they're like requesting that, because the, thing you want to do, if you want to encourage somebody to live a healthier lifestyle, the last thing you want to do is just enforce this energy of you got to live healthy, because then immediately the natural reaction to that is to say, no, this is too much, you're aggressive, this is overwhelming, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because it doesn't stress me the way you're stressing me right now. But if you just, one, lead by example, of course, and also educate, just give them little education here, little education there, about the benefits of eating more plant-based, or more of a conscious diet, more of a very much self-aware diet. Once you do that, then the change in the client, the change in the person is more effective instead of just forcing it right off the bat. So yeah, I don't do the preachy vegan stuff. I let folks, make their own choices, but help them be aware of their choices. That's the important part.
Well, that's good to hear right there. Good that you're, as they say, you're being flexible with them, but also, letting them know what's going on, just to implement a plant-based diet. Brownstone Wellness, and again, you provide a lot of services there with personal training, comedic yoga. Also, you do holistic consulting. Just tell our audience a little bit more about the premise of Brownstone Wellness.
Brownstone Wellness started back in 2013, and this was right after I had a really bad anxiety panic attack, and I had to be hospitalized and all that because I was under a lot of heavy stress, and also mainly because I just wasn't happy with things with my in terms of my career, and I feel like I wasn't truly connecting to my truest potential. So I had to after I had recovered, and I had cut out a bunch of just energy that I was connected with, and I resigned from various institutions I was training at. And I decided, with the help of a client, all my clients, to really start my own business. And of course, I was looking at more the more generic stuff, like feeding fitness, this fitness, that fitness. And I was like, well, the thing is, what I do is more than fitness. Uh, what I connect to is more than just the physical. There's a holistic perspective on things. There's a holistic aspect of my training, and that's wellness more so than fitness. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, wellness is definitely something that I connect to and I can have as the title. And then I was like, well, what can not Stephen Wellness? That I want something that it really sticks out. And Brownstone came to mind because of where I grew up and where I lived in Bed-Stuy. There's brownstones everywhere, and understanding like a brownstone, the reason why they last for so many years. Most brownstones in Bed-Stuy are like well over 100 years old. So, and and understanding why they last so long is because of the foundation and the infrastructure inside of the brownstone that keeps it going for so long, not so much the outside. So I connected the brownstone to the human body and the human and how the human body stays alive and stays healthy for so long because of what's happening on the inside, because of the foundational aspect of the human body, the mind, the emotions, our health, our diet, all these things play a major role in staying healthy and keeping a well-rounded self, being a well-rounded self in terms of wellness. So that's how the term brownstone wellness came about. And, and I also, part of the service was doing like in-home training and making it as convenient as possible for people to get that training, to get that service. So, I was moving and I was going, door to door because I wanted folks to know that there's no excuse now for you to not focus on yourself, to not focus on yourself, because I'm coming to you and this attention is coming to you in your space. And that just like was something that I just kept going with and ran with. Of course, I thought about having like a physical space, but it was something about connecting with people in their homes and in various spaces that made it a little extra special for me, and made it a little more interesting for me. It's definitely a business, and it's something that I'm very proud of, and enjoying it, seeing it grow more and more people becoming more aware of it, and just the concept and the idea behind it. And even the logo itself, it's a lotus flower, and it represents wellness. And the lotus flower also has spiritual connections to it. So, just to look back at that and see that today and see how it's been growing and evolving all these years, definitely, it's definitely very heartwarming, and I'm very grateful for it. And, and my work, my business too, I've always looked to connect with other businesses and offer my services with other, through other businesses as well. So, and continue to connect more with people like yourself who are, holding platforms and holding space for other folks to just speak their truth and speak their mind. So, yeah.
All right, well, cool. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Let the audience know where they can find you on social media and the website.
Yes. My website is brownstonewellnessnyc.com. Again, that's brown, as in the color brown, stone, wellness, nyc.com. And my Instagram is Brownstone Wellness. And my Facebook is Brownstone Wellness. And same as Twitter, Brownstone Wellness as well. But yeah, the main page, the main social media where you can stay connected and keep up to date to different things is my Instagram handle, Brownstone at Brownstone Wellness.
Well, you heard it from him. He's Stephen Rousseau. He is a personal trainer, holistic nutritionist, and a certified comedic yoga instructor. He is the owner of his own business in Brooklyn, New York, called Brownstone Wellness. He's dropped a lot of gems for us, and he's continuing to do big things. Stephen, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us on the program. Any words of wisdom or any more nuggets you want to drop on the audience, whatever is on your heart, man, the floor is yours.
I would tell folks out there, continue to be love, continue to be light, and continue to be divine. We are all beautiful beings, and we're going to get this and any other obstacles that come to us as long as we understand the loving and light and divine energy that is within us. So continue to be that. Continue to be your most beautiful, loving, most vibrant, and divine selves. Thank you all. Peace.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.